Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Total Truth Show. And here on the Total Truth Show, we want to help you break free from the lies and propaganda of the mainstream media, all the disinformation and misinformation. We want to help you blast through all of that. And my name is Ken Kleinberg, coming to you all the way from the USA, San Diego, California.
And I'm Aldwyn Altuney, known as the Media Queen from the Gold Coast in Australia.
There is a great awakening happening in the world right now, and you're going to want to come along for the ride.
A lot of lies are coming to the surface. There's a lot of awakening happening. And as this awakening is happening, people realize they've been deceived for years. They've been lied to for years around all sorts of things. A lot of people have been blind to what has been going on in the world, and now they're starting to see. They're starting to see things in a different light.
Through our show, we want to raise global consciousness to quantum critical mass. And we don't want you just to accept the things that we're saying. That goes for our guests as well. We want you to do the research for yourself. Get out there and start questioning things. Start looking things up. Do the research. We want to pave the way for a new awakened world. And we want you to come along for the ride. So with that, let's get started, you guys. Let's dive into today's episode. Once again, welcome.
Yes, welcome to Total Truth Show, episode 73, the truth about overcoming loss. We've got my amazing co-host all the way from San Diego, Ken Kleinberg. How are you today?
I am doing absolutely amazing and really excited for today's episode.
Fantastic. And we have Francine Ivey all the way from Texas.
Woohoo.
Hello, Francine. Welcome. Now, a little bit about Francine for those who don't know her, and welcome everyone here from Instagram right now, Facebook, on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch. Welcome. Now, Francine is the CEO of Consumed Coaching and the founder of Consumed by the Call Ministries. She's a certified master coach in multiple disciplines and author of the Kingdom Coach certification. She's dedicated to empowering faith-based coaches worldwide. She has advised leaders from Fortune 500 companies such as New York Life, Northwestern Mutual, and Berkshire Hathaway, and delivers impactful talks on sales, leadership, and overcoming adversity, amongst other topics. Welcome, Francine.
Yay, I'm so glad to be here. What an honor. I've been hearing good things over here. So.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I must say, I love your accent. It sounds like Dolly Parton. And
yes.
I just love it. And, of course, we don't have an accent here in Australia. Although, welcome. I'm going to love just listening to your accent during this show. So overcoming loss. Why this topic, Francine?
Yeah, unfortunately, because I've experienced it in a pretty strong way. And, of course, it is what pretty much launched the ministry, and it launched the coaching business itself. So it's a major part of our story. And so in January 2017, I'd been married for 27 years to, honestly, the love of my life. I was married to my very best friend. We did everything together. We homeschooled the kids. We did ministry together. We did we worked together. So pretty much 24/7. I laugh. I say it. I can still think about his blue eyes and butterflies pull up into my tummy. So we made the decision to be infatuated our whole marriage, and we did. And we did just that. So in 2017, he had preached an incredible message. We had started a new church in Mississippi, also a very Southern. That's where a lot of my accent also comes from. So we were discussing all the different states I've lived in. All of them are Southeast. So you're probably hearing a real mixture of them all. He preached an incredible message that morning. It was called Consumed by the Call. And of course you can hear that is on all of our titles: Consumed by the Call Ministries, Consumed Coaching. But the message really was calling out everybody he had ever laid hands on, anybody he had ever called into ministry, and calling them out to do what God had called them to do. We had lunch that afternoon, and just had an incredible time with the kids. The kids went away, went to their bedrooms, and my husband looked across the table at me and he said, "This is the day of the Ivies." And I was like, what do you mean, Ivy being our last name? And he said, I couldn't be happier with where our family is right now. Little did I know in just a few hours I would need those words so badly. I walked into a corporate coaching call with a group of my team members. He jumped in the car and was running to the store to get some creamer for our coffee because we would normally plan our week and we didn't have any creamer. And so on his way home, a truck was going too fast through a light and took him home to be with the Lord. In an instant, our whole life just shattered to the ground. I had grabbed my keys and actually drove around the corner and saw all the lights. And yeah, from one moment of having everything planned to the next moment, it all just literally crashing to the ground.
Wow, I'm so sorry to hear that. And how old was he at the time?
He was 62. So
Wow,
yeah.
way too young. And that's the thing about loss, is it can happen at any time. And I mean, with that, obviously you've got grief that comes with that loss and that unexpected sort of tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with something like that? What happened for you after that and the children?
Yeah. You know, it's interesting that being a pastor's wife, it puts you in a different spot, because not only did I lose my husband and the father to my children, but I lost my pastor and I lost my identity, because for 27 years I was a pastor's wife. That's what I did. It's who I was, it's what I did. And now I find myself in a place where I'm having to look for a church. I'm just in a very different spot. Also very, very oddly, I'm sitting across the table on the other side of the table, right? I had sat there holding people's hands on couches when they were losing their loved ones. And now here I am on the other side. I didn't know how to act on this side. So, of course, having to tell my children, the house filled up very quickly. I made a couple of phone calls, and I tell everybody, please make sure you have the right tribe around you. I don't know how we would have made it had our house not filled as quickly with the people that loved us. But at one moment, I looked at my friends and I said, I need some time alone. Watch the kids. And I remember walking into the master bedroom, the door shutting behind me. I didn't even make it to the bed. I just crumbled to the floor and tears were just streaming, and just getting really honest with God and telling him, this is not what I planned. I am angry. This is not fair. We had done all the right things. We prayed. We went, we did church. We didn't even just go to church. We led church, right? We had given up lots of things and moved when he said moved and all of those things. And I remember just sitting there weeping and realizing I have a choice to make. I could go crawl up in that bed and throw the covers over my head and say, I'm done. I'm done. You're not fair, God. I'm done. Or I could decide to cling to him with everything that I had. And in that moment, I just let the tears hit the floor and I said, God, if you can figure out how to take the pain that feels so physical right now, not just emotional, like my heart was ripping apart. And if you can take these tears and you can give me purpose with it, then I'm going to give it to you. And I need you. And when he did just that, I mean, by the following 4 days after the funeral, God woke me up at about 5:30 in the morning. He said, I need you to get on Facebook Live. My husband was doing these deep devotionals, and on Facebook Live, it was, I think it was Periscope that everybody was on before, right? Doing all these lives. Periscope had gone away. Facebook Live had started. And so he was doing devos early in the morning just to kind of encourage people on their way to work. And God said, I need you to get on the Devo. And I was like, I don't do that. Like, he was the one with the 4 doctorates. He was the one who preached. I was his wife. Like, I don't do that. And he's like, I need you to get on that live. And so I made my way over and just turned the camera on. I know Ken watched it. I just turned the camera on and turned the mic on inside of his studio and just raw and real told people where I was, where God was meeting me, and how he was healing us. I figured 50 of my friends would show up and watch, and that would be the end of it. I will have done what God wanted, and I would walk away from that. Uh, and 34,000 people watched that video before that night. It went viral on me. And people were messaging from behind because they resonated with the raw realness of it. We all hear the testimonies when people are on top. We all hear the testimonies when it all works out and heaven seems to pour out. But what happens when heaven feels silent? What happens when you feel like your prayers aren't being heard? What happens when you feel like God's not fair and your circumstances don't line up with what you know the word of God says? What happens then? And so God asked me, he said, will you take them through your valley? Will you do it? And so for 3.5 years, I went live every morning, raw and real. This is where we're at. This is how he's healing us. And people just followed us.
Wow, that's extraordinary. And how old were your children at the time?
My son was 11. My middle daughter was 16, and my oldest was 21 at the time.
And how did they handle it?
All differently. That's the thing that I would really tell people about grief. Everybody's going to handle it differently. And then grief is different for everybody. And then there's different kinds of grief. Losing a spouse. I mean, I had lost a spouse. My kids had lost a dad. Totally different griefs. And then you talk about each personality, which I'm an only child. So I had no idea that children had different personalities until I had my own. So I was like, oh my, same DNA, totally different children. Well, grief was no different. And then you top off the fact that all of us are hurting. Like, it's not just like one child is hurting and we all go to care, but it's pretty rough. And that's why I tell people who are like, how do I support my friend? And I'm like, be there. Don't expect anything. Don't allow them to lead the conversation, but be there. If you have to just wash dishes, just be available and allow them to walk through it. So they all handled it very differently.
And people do die of grief. In fact, my uncle died during COVID, and his wife, my auntie, she died 11 days later, and he was a fair bit older than her. And I saw this interesting little photo and snippet on social media the other day of a bird that flew into a window and died, and the partner of the bird went and put its head next to that bird and died with it. Like,
Yes.
it's a real thing. People do die of grief, and
They do.
if the tears come, let the tears come, let it out. And we see this a lot with people who've been together for a long time. Certain animal species that do not want to be separated, that want to go where the partner has gone, so it really takes something to not die of grief, right? I mean, this is, how do you overcome loss and still live life? So what were some of the things that you did? So obviously expressing yourself was very powerful for you at the time, to be able to share about it and to have all those people supporting you, having all that love coming from the community, which is extraordinary. What else did you do to navigate the grief? And are there still times now when you still just cry it out sometimes? You still go through this, roller coaster ride of life as you reflect on what was?
Yeah. Wow. There's a lot in that. That's great questions. It being able to express yourself. I loved that I had a tribe that allowed me to be, right? Being a pastor's wife, I learned a long time ago, most of the time people didn't want you to express exactly, because you're human, but you also lead and shepherd hearts. And I had a close enough tribe that I could just be honest. And there were times when I didn't sound very Christ-like, and I didn't sound very Christian, and definitely didn't sound very pastorally in the moment. But they allowed me to have that room, and then allowed me to go back to what I know, right? And so allowing people the room to grieve and to feel what they feel, and don't panic, right? Just give them the space. Allow me to talk about him when I want to talk about him. If you were around me today and we weren't necessarily talking about grief, you would think that he's going to come home from work. Like, to me, this is a choice. This is not a choice for everybody, but I choose to stay married to him. I'm still wearing his ring. He just lives in heaven. I'm in love with him now as much as I loved him the day I married him. And if God has something for me, I mean, he's really going to have to open up heaven for that. Cause I was loved enough in 27 years to last a lifetime. I really have. So, but during that time, I was able to express that life wasn't fair. I was able to express, and I had friends that would sit with me in that and not panic and not try to preach at me, and just allow me to express myself. But then when it was time to do what I needed to do and to really lean in on the truth, they leaned in on the truth with me and allowed me to do that as well. They also, when we were all grieving very hard as a family, stepped in, because when you got 3, 4 people in a family hurting at the same time, that can cause some damage. And I had some incredible friends that knew when I needed a break, when one of my kids needed a break, when someone needed to go for a ride, right? Because again, it was hard to explain. It was hard to understand someone else's grief and the way they were handling it. So
Yeah, it's a very unique experience, I would imagine. And, all the thoughts of what could have been and what could have been said and what wasn't said, and, ways to release that. And I know a very powerful thing to do is actually to write out whatever you want to say to someone who has passed that maybe you didn't get to say goodbye to, and actually just let it all out and then let it go. Let go and let God, as they say, or let go and let flow. And then you can burn it and let it go. Because we are spiritual beings having a human experience,
there
and
you go. Yes.
I do believe our spirits are here, our the angels, I do believe our ancestors are with us at all times, and we may not see them, but we can feel them, and
Yes.
the more we silence ourselves, I find the more we can connect to that energy, the more we realize that we're not alone. And to realize too that life does throw curveballs, and the saying that everything happens for you, not to you, sometimes that can be a really hard thing to accept, that everything happens for us, not to us. But I do believe it's the only way really to actually have sanity around something that happens, where you feel like the victim of something at times. You think, why has this happened? And maybe there's a greater plan. My dad always said to me, God has a plan for you. God has a plan for you, Aldwyn. And I love that. And whatever your spiritual religious beliefs are, I do believe that there's one universal energy source, God, whatever you want to call it. And I think having faith is very, very important. How important has your faith been for you, Francine?
Extremely. There's not words for it. I really, and people have said that, how would you have done that without my faith? Because there were 3 standards, and I was doing this before, which is why I don't think you can have this kind of standard unless you kind of had it before, because in the moment, the turmoil and the emotions. But before, I had the understanding that God was good even when my life, or I didn't feel like it was good, or my circumstances weren't good. God was able, even when he was telling me no to something I was requesting. And God loved me even if I didn't feel. And anybody who's been married or had someone that they loved very much, they know there's sometimes you don't feel that love. And so I knew that. And so I had to, in the middle of all of that, I had to get down to that baseline. God is good, even though life doesn't feel good right now. Everything had to line up with that truth, whether or not it made sense or not. It lined up with that truth. God's able, even though I wasn't getting what I wanted. And God loves me, even though I wasn't feeling loved right now. And when you have the right baseline, then everything stacks correctly. It's just like building a house. If the foundation's off, now the house rocks or the house will fall down. And so I knew that was the baseline. These are truths, right? Truth is truth. And then you build everything on that. So
Francine, I'd like to, if you're willing, if you're not, please, feel free to say, nah, I don't want to, go that direction for this conversation. But I actually would love for you to share a little bit more detail on the no. Like, I listened to your testimony, that 30-minute testimony. I really feel like that was, I don't know, that was a very deep, powerful, sort of just a mixed moment. And I'd like you to maybe dive into that moment all the way down to you being at the funeral home where your husband was, if you're willing. If you're
Sure.
not, then just feel free.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So, I remember my kids came to me and they said, "Mom, God can do anything." And I had taught my kids God could do anything. And throughout the Bible, death had no, I mean, honest to goodness, if you read, death has no power, right? When it comes to God, when it comes to God. And so my children asked, "Will you go and pray and just make sure that God doesn't have a different plan?" And I was like, yes. I mean, how do you teach your kids that the Bible's true and you don't follow through? And so I'm like, okay. So I'm going to be honest. I got dressed thinking I might see him, and I went down to the funeral home, and I just asked the woman, "Can I pray over my husband?" And I need to ask. And she said, "We don't allow that." And I was like, "Well, I understand that." I said, "But I'm not leaving without it, because I'm not going home and telling my kids I didn't try." And so we talked back and forth, and I was like, "I believe God can do anything. So I need you to work this out." And so she finally agreed, and they set up a time for me to come in, and I brought my father and my best friend, and we were prayed up, and I went in there and I put my hands on him and I began to pray. And I was bold, and I just said, "God, I want him back. I want him back. And if it's your will, I'm going to ask that you bring him back." And it was as sure as I could hear him. I mean, it was almost, and God said, "Seek first me." And I was like, that's not what I want to hear. And then he reminded me of me and Wade standing on stages. We used to teach conferences about marriage, and Wade would be on one side and I would be on the other side. And one of the statements we would always make is, "He's not my other half and I'm not his other half. He doesn't complete me. I don't complete him. I am whole in Christ." And we give each other, the reason why our marriage was so beautiful is because we were both whole in Christ, not whole because of each other. And God was making it very evident that this was not God's choice to bring him home, that this was his day. Later, I think it was even after the video, my husband had preached that morning about Jim Elliot. Jim Elliot was a martyr. And the statement that he wrote in his journal after that they found after he was killed on the mission field was, and that's what he preached on. That's why I was consumed by the call that morning. It is, "He is no fool if he would give the thing he cannot keep to gain what he can never lose." And this was a very special story and very special. We sang a duet together about this. There was this story was very special in his family. Well, one of my friends called, who's a pastor in Alaska, and he said, "Do you know the significance of January 8th? This is the day that God took Wade home, was January 8th. And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Jim Elliot went home to be with the Lord on January 8th in the 50s. And it was God's confirmation. It had nothing to do with the creamer that he was going to get. It had nothing to do with the truck. No matter where he was, that was his day. It was his time." And so being settled that everything I experienced is Father filtered and really brought peace. Matter of fact, some people who were staying with us during that time said there was such a major difference, even though we got no to our prayer, there was such a major difference in the peace once we knew God's answer, because I could trust his heart.
Wow. You know, January 8 is also Elvis's birthday. He was born January 8, 1935, the king of rock and roll, of course.
Wow.
From probably not far from you, Texas area, probably down there, Graceland, right?
Yeah.
There
Yes.
you go.
Yeah.
Very powerful day. And of course, 8 is, about prosperity in the Chinese. It's an abundant number. 8, the 8th of the 8th, 2018 is when I founded the Good News Day. We have a Good News Day every year since the 8th of the 8th. 2018. That was after my fourth friend's suicide. It was about bringing more gratitude and good news into the world. And of course, the Good News Bible is the biggest selling book of all time. I
Yes.
think there's 5 billion copies plus or something sold of the Good News Bible.
Wow.
So, faith is so important. And in fact, recently I was in a book called, the book I read, I had a chapter in there, and there's 25 people in that book that wrote a chapter about a book that had inspired them and helped change their life in some way. And I wrote about Think and Grow Rich, one of the classic personal development books of all time, and business books. And one of the 13 principles is faith in that book, which is interesting, right? So, faith is just so, so important. And, without faith, what is there, right? And I know, Ken, you have a very strong faith as well. How important has faith been for you, Ken, when you've experienced loss in the past?
It's been huge. It has been very much huge. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's like, I know where I stand. I know where I stand in Christ. I know where I stand in God. I know where I stand. And, it's interesting, since 2020 and everything that's happened in there, the scamdemic, all of it. Yes, I said the word scamdemic, guys. But since all of that, and kind of being in a spot of a lot of research, and not just research into like the things that I'm passionate about, which is the lies of the health and wellness industry, other research, spiritual research, different things. There's a lot of different things that have come my way that before I was not open to. After I took my red pill, if you will, summer of 2020, I started diving down a bunch of trails, and there were some spiritual trails that I dove down, not necessarily having to do with Christ or anything, just a lot of different things. It's really hard to explain. And it was really easy for me to get stuck in the weeds of some of that. Like, were we not told about this because of that? But every time I got lost in the weeds, every single time I got lost in the weeds, all I had to do is pray and ask God to refocus me. And he would always bring me back. He would always bring me back front and center, right at his cross. And he would always reaffirm, no, I am your savior. I chose you. You are mine. This is truth.
Yes.
And regardless on whether, there's a few things that have been tampered with in the Bible, that one thing I stand firm on: his death, his burial, his resurrection, him saving me. Do I believe that possibly there are things that we have not been told that have been hidden from us? Yes, I do. But that does not change what I know in my heart of hearts of who he is. That is my strength. That is my power. That is where I stand. That is a non-negotiable for me in every way, shape, or form. It doesn't matter how crazy things get out there and how much we learn that we've been lied to or things have been hidden from us. That is the one solid foundation that I will always stand on. Recently, within the last 5 to 6 months, I, was praying that God would show me how to make him more part of my brand and my company. And, that is exactly what he's done, all the way down to, some of you may not know this, but Francine is actually my coach and mentor right now. All the way down to that, she has helped me to make God more a part of my brand. And a large part of that is her own example of her program, her ministry, and what she does, and how she has kingdom entrepreneurs. And wow, it's just been an interesting ride. But I really, sometimes I'll sit back in my chair and I'll be like, Lord, I don't even want to know where I'd be today if I didn't have you as my anchor and my solid rock. He is my anchor, and I get the privilege of looking to that anchor and pulling from that anchor every single moment of every single day. And with that, Francine, I kind of want to pivot here off of me because this is not about me. I want to pivot. And every time I see a photo of you and your family on Facebook, I see so much joy. I see so much strength. I see so much power in your family. How in the world, you raising your kids for the last few years, how in the world did you achieve such strength and power in your family and instill that into your kids? Because every one of your kids' stories that I've seen, photos of, every one of them have so much power and strength and unity and tightness and all of that. How in the world did that happen?
I think, there's so many things in that. Number one, as a parent, and we learned this early on, and I just thank the Lord for it, is I wasn't there to prevent them from experiencing the potholes of the world and the craziness of the world, because I think we think these kids are born perfect and then all of a sudden the world's going to distort and change them. No, kids are born in sin, and we're all born in sin. It's the Bible says that. My job was to evangelize them. And so I taught them even from very young how to hear his voice, how to walk with him, how to even we would I laugh. My husband and I were pastors and of a church, and many actually, and people would come down to the altar. Well, obviously we would be praying for them. Well, little ones, my kids, well, mom and dad are praying, I'm praying too. So they mimicked our walk with Christ. I remember every one of them when they said, "Mommy, God doesn't talk to me the way he talks to you." And so I said, "Okay, well, let's talk about how you can hear God's voice, because it's not religion. Religion is a bunch of rules. Christianity is a walk, a relationship with Christ, just as you were describing, Ken, right? Even if you don't understand everything, it that's not the point. I have a relationship with Christ." And so I needed to make sure that my kids knew how to hear him when life got crazy, because life's crazy. We all know it is right now. And my kids are going to need to navigate that. And so I knew that my number one job was to evangelize my kids and to cultivate the relationship they have with the Lord. And I told my kids at a certain age, right around 11 and 12, I said, number one, I want you to know mom's going to fight you for you. And if I have to, I'm not here to be your best friend. I'm here to be your mom. You're going to have lots of best friends, but I'm going to be your mom. And I'm going to do the hard things, but we can decide to do this the hard way until you're 18 and you finally come to your senses, or we can decide to be best friends and you recognize that mom is who she says she is, and we can fight for our relationships. And every one of them fought for it. I said, there's coming a day you won't live with me anymore, but we can decide how that's going to end by making a decision to respect and love each other. And we've done that. And honest to goodness, I wish I could tell you that I was a perfect mom. I'm not. But the Lord filled in the gaps when I messed up. So, and then I was honest with them too when I messed up. Hey, sorry, mom got mad, and I shouldn't have said that. And if they can't see me repent, how are they ever going to repent? I had to also be the example of that.
I'm curious, Francine, about your business side. So you run now multi-six-figure coaching business nationally and internationally. You've had 30 years in the ministry before entering the corporate coaching industry. So how was that transition going from in the ministry to now having a very successful coaching industry? How did that come about?
Like everything else with me, kicking and screaming and my heels dug in and God's dragging me that way. All I ever really knew, yes, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 19 years old. I started my first company at 19, totally flopped and failed, but lots of learning lessons with it. That probably had a lot to do with the fact that I was an only child, right? And I didn't want bosses. So I thought I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So but, for the 27 years that we were married, it was ministry. I got married at 21 and literally walked into being a pastor's wife. Now, here's the thing. I was also a brand new Christian. I was a brand new Christian and becoming a pastor's wife, all pretty close at hand. I laugh because I remember sitting on the front row of this big Baptist church and sitting next to kids and trying to figure out where they were going in the Bible because I wasn't raised in church. So, and I didn't realize that all Bibles had different numbers. So I'm looking at their page number cheating, trying to figure out where they are in the Bible and realizing, oh, my Bible numbers are different than theirs page numbers. Some of you already know that. I didn't know that. So, you know, so that's all I knew. I had learned to be a pastor's wife, and it was a powerful time. So right after losing weight, my counselor at the time, we had gone to a Christian counselor, even though we felt like God was healing us and we were doing well. I believe in having another set of eyes on you, like, you know. And so we had this awesome Christian counselor, and he just looked at me, said, "Man, you're phenomenal. You need to get a coaching certification and start coaching, and I can send clients to you because counselors are to get you from 0 to 10, right? You're hurting and you're trying to get back to that balance. But once you get to that balance, you need a coach to start moving you forward." And so he said, I could really use you as people are transitioning out of counseling and into moving forward in life. And I didn't know what a coach was at the time. All I ever knew was baseball coach, football coach. I was like, I don't even run, so I don't know what this is about. But anyway, so I remember sitting there going through my first certification. My hands were in my head and in my face because I was just weeping, because I realized the power of coaching, the power of asking questions and being attentive and really listening and pulling the treasure out of somebody, not trying to have all the answers, right? Not being the bossy big sis with them, but literally pulling the answers out of them and knowing that there was treasure. And see, I look at everybody like, oh my goodness, you have a God call on your life. You have gifts. I can see them. Like I feel like everybody is transparent to me and I can see the gold inside of them. And so this was so natural for me. And I remember weeping and saying, man, if I'd had the skill to know to ask questions and instead of trying to tell someone to do the right thing, and I could have pulled revelation out of someone instead of just knowledge into someone, I could have really changed lives. And so that was my first introduction to coaching. And then I'm an overachiever, so I have 7 certifications. And God literally, someone reached out to me and said, "Hey, we have a corporate sales team. We know you ran a sales team. Would you consider being a coach with us?" I was like, "No, I don't know anything about the corporate world. Like, I don't really know." And they said, "At least do an interview." So I went through 3-4 interviews and I kept passing them. Like, do they know what they're doing? Like, I'm a former pastor's wife. What? And all of a sudden, they hired me. I was like, what? In the first 3 months, I am coaching 10 different industries I'd never worked in: real estate, financial advisory, all this stuff. And their lives were changing and their incomes were multiplying. Why? Not because I'd ever done what they did, but because coaching works. And that's what God sent me into when I started first corporate business coaching. And then in March of 2021 is when I started Consumed. And that's when I decided that my faith had to be integrated and it was a non-negotiable for me. And so I stepped out of the corporate company and started my own and was unapologetically faith-based. So.
I love that. That is so powerful. And of course, Ken and I are both coaches as well. And all coaches need coaches. And in fact,
So
I used to play table tennis years ago, and I had multiple coaches. I played for Australia for 6 years. With table tennis, multiple coaches that we had back then, and I now still have multiple coaches. I'm constantly investing in myself because we're too close to what we do to see the genius of what we do. We have another amazing coach with us in the house here. We've got Holly Johnson. Hello, Holly. Good to see you on Facebook. She says, your coaching will help many because of your experiences, which help you truly connect. This is how I facilitate the changes in my clients too. It's so rewarding doing divine work like this.
Amen.
Thank you,
Amen.
Holly, for And another interesting comment from Holly here. She says, a mum of 3, one stepdaughter, 8, and 2 boys, 12 and 14. None of them will have a bar of God or religion. I still tap into the divine and connect with God for my learnings, my forgiveness, and my guidance. And the kids will learn, she says. The kids will learn. And she says, and I'm building a bridge for coaches and be yours. I think be yours, beyond, be yours. Not sure if that's a typo or if that's be yours. Anyway, thank you for that, Holly, building a bridge for coaches. That's very, very cool. And that's the thing. There's a great saying in one of the courses I did with Landmark Education. They talk about be committed, not attached. Be committed, not attached in life. And I think that's a general great principle for everything in life, because there's certain things we can control and there's certain things we can't. And it's when we really get stuck on what we can't control, that we want to control, that we want a certain outcome, that's when the frustration happens, right? So actually being able to let go, to trust that everything's in divine order. And another great saying that I heard is that great challenges are not given to small souls. Great challenges are not given to small souls. I absolutely love that. Holly says, be your own ultimate resolve solution. Okay, that's what the be yours is. Be your own ultimate resolve solution. Oh, very cool. Oh, Holly's NLP trained. Okay, awesome.
Right.
Programming. Very cool, Holly. Thank you. I just did an NLP course recently with Julie Thompson. I did a hypnosis course and did quantum coaching and all these different modalities, which I find very powerful. Now, back to faith, and let's talk about revelations for a moment. Now, with everything going on in the world right now with microchipping, and let's have a serious conversation here about what you think is going on with revelations, talking about the end of the world and end times. What are you seeing unraveling now with the state of the world and with what was predicted in Revelations all those years ago?
Yeah. Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, we're seeing signs. The Bible's pretty clear to us that there'll be signs, and it's very evident how the Bible clearly states it to us. And it's funny because a lot of people will use the verse that says he's going to come like a thief in the night, in the night. And yes, I don't think we know the date and time, but here's the thing, that it right after that says, but you will know, my children will know, because the signs of it. Now, is that 100 years from now? Is that 200 years? I don't know, but I do know that it is closer than it was yesterday. And I know beyond any shadow of doubt, he's coming. Honestly, it brings me personally, I got too many people in heaven. I'm pretty excited about it. I'm here to serve for as long as I can, but I'm pretty excited about heaven one day. And I'm excited that we don't have to face death anymore, and we don't have to face sickness anymore. People used to ask me all the time, where is God in the middle of pain? And why does bad things happen to good people? And it's because we're not exempt. I mean, I think we think that when we give our life to Christ that we'll somehow become exempt, but we're not. We live in a broken and fallen world. And where is God in all of that? He showed us. He's on the cross. He said, one day this will be done and you will never experience sickness or death or loss. But until everybody gets an opportunity, because he loves us so much. And that's why, I used to get mad because I'm like, why did I get left here to do all the work while he gets to go to heaven? And, I would get kind of out of sorts with it. But the truth of the matter is, he's preparing for the Lord to come back, just like I'm preparing for the Lord to come back here. There are things going on in heaven right now because there's going to be a new heaven and a new earth. It's going to be a forever place, and our lives, even if they were 150 years, right? If we just lived 150 years for some reason, because Ken got a hold of us and made us all healthy. So, but if we lived 150 years here, that would be such a short span in the picture of forever and eternity. And I think it's not going to be like woo woo and we're all floating around. I mean, it is real with real memories and real reunions and homecoming and lion laying down with the lamb. It's going to be a beautiful, beautiful reunion. It's going to be hard because there'll be people who won't be with us, but which is hard. And that's why I work so hard now to tell people about him, because he's so good. So,
Mm.
Now,
Yeah.
I'll speak into that a little bit as well. My beliefs around Revelation and the end times recently have changed. And it's partly because of somebody that I'm following on Rumble right now. Her name is Melissa Red Pill the World. And if you've not heard from her or heard about her, I would definitely encourage you guys to go find her on Rumble, Melissa Red Pill the World. But she has an interesting version of the end times and Revelation that actually makes more sense to me than anything I was ever taught. And it's not a bunch of fluff, but it fits. So before I get into that, one of the points she makes, and I really had to sit back and just go, I don't think I've ever heard a sermon spoken on that. She makes, first of all, she starts making a point. She's like, when was the last time you heard a sermon or somebody preach on the minor prophets? And I was like, or from the books of the minor prophets. And I was like, not very many. And so that was a point. And the fact of the matter is the minor prophets actually speak, they're prophetic, and they are speaking into the times that we are going through right now. And she makes the point that Revelation is not, it's not this scary picture of doom and gloom and all this other stuff that we've always been taught. It is literally the end times for them, for the corrupt. And when you start putting the pieces together that she has put together, it makes a whole lot more sense to me that it's that way. Everything she talks about, from, here's another example, blotting out the sun. I think it's spoken in Revelation how the sun's, going to be dimmed and stuff like that. Well, what are they doing in our skies right now? Chemtrails. Look at our water. Look at how they poison our water. Look at our food supply. Look at how they poison our food supply. Doesn't Revelation talk about that? What happened?
Oh, I'm not sure. Francine has just popped off. Hopefully she'll come back on in a minute, but keep going, Kenny. You're on a roll there. Hopefully she'll come back in a second.
But it's like what about that? And so it's not the scary picture that everybody thought it would be. It's the end times for the corrupt. It's the end times for those people. So it's just interesting. You may or may not.
Yes. Well, time will tell. Time will tell, no doubt. Francine's just coming back in. Obviously, her internet cut out or something there. So hopefully she'll be back in just a second.
Her screen is going.
It's very, very interesting what's going
there
down.
There you are.
Welcome back.
But so back to that. It's just fascinating. It's interesting. And it makes more sense to me. And it places a lot more hope in the arena of Revelation to me. And that actually makes more sense. Why would God give us a story in Revelation that's all this fear and doom and destruction, and we have to, all this? So see, that's why I'm like, her story makes more sense than anything I've ever been taught on the book of Revelation. Those are just my thoughts. I am not like 100% like all over that, but I am definitely leaning in that direction because she's made some good points. And she's also got a book out called End Times, 1,000 Years of Peace. And she talks about some of the lies and deceptions that we've been taught all throughout, church and different things like that. Again, I'm going to preface this, you guys. I am not bashing the church. I love my church. I love Christ and everything else. I really want to be clear about that. I'm not bashing that. But anyhow, so that's my thoughts on it.
I just did a quick search of what Revelation says about the end times, and it says it reads like a horror film with fantastical, monstrous beasts and giant, surreal insects, as well as plagues, wars, a lake of fire, and torture. What are your thoughts about that? Is that correct, or is that just Google having a play with us?
I think that's partially Google having a play with you. And the thing, again, I'm going to preface, I don't think it's the end times for us. I really am standing on, like, I'm leaning on that. I think the minor prophets, all the minor prophet books and the things that they talk about, we are literally in the middle of that. And I could be wrong, but we are literally, it feels like we are in the middle of that. And I really do think this is the end times for them. Another point she made that I was like, ooh, that's a really good point too, is the beast, talking about the beast and how the beast is going to go into his little temple and then he's going to rise up. Well, that doesn't make sense either, because we would catch on to that. And the beast doesn't want to be caught on to. He wants to remain kind of like back in the scene so he can continue to deceive. So that was a kind of an aha moment. And Francine's got some internet problems going on here.
That's okay. She'll be with us in a sec. I'll just keep reading a few more things here. It says here also that signaling that the end time is near. There'll be things such as wars, there'll be conflicts, there'll be increasing levels of evil and wickedness in the world, which we've been seeing, rising environmental hazards, and the emergence of a global economy. Now, isn't that interesting? The one world government, the digital currency, like there is evidence of these things happening.
Yeah.
And, it's going to be very interesting to see the way things roll out. However, this show now, no doubt Francine will be back in a minute. She's, these things happen with a live show, right? Tech issues. So let's come back to the topic here, the truth about overcoming loss. So Ken, what is your last memory of a loss that you had? And how did you, we've talked about how you've dealt with it with faith, but what was that process like for you? Did you, sort of let yourself cry it out, or, what happened for you when you last felt loss? Last felt loss. Although
right. No, I get that.
Feeling lost as well.
I think, is your internet okay, Francine?
I'm back. That was the weirdest thing. It just went away and I kept jumping in and out.
It's the end times. We're talking about the end times and what happens. There's interference happening there from these evil forces on the planet.
Right. Yeah. So you're back, Francine?
I think so. I came back a moment ago and then went away again. So
okay. Yes, well, if it happens again, just pop back in. It's not a problem. Not a problem at all. Hey, technology, it was created by man. So that's why it's so glitchy. Your question to your question to me, Aldwyn, how have I dealt with loss in the past? The most recent loss that I will say that I had was my mom's cat, Stormy. And interesting story behind Stormy. When we got Stormy, and that's why Stormy was named Stormy, because this cat was a storm. We had to force feed it. We literally had to spend a lot of time nursing it back to health, because the rescue place didn't do its job in taking care of this cat. And this cat was a spit and fire. It had a temper. You can tell it had been abused. It had a limp on its back hind leg. Either it was hit by a car or abused or something. But it just did not have a good personality at first. Through the years and through a lot of love and care, Stormy came around. And I like to say the last 3 to 4 years of Stormy's life, Stormy actually started showing love and experiencing that love and acting like a normal cat. And Stormy then eventually attached onto me. And part of that was also jealousy, because I have my own cat that's very near and dear to my heart. And it's, I shudder the day that my baby leaves me. I shudder that day. And, but Stormy attached onto me, and it was kind of like a battle. It was a battle over my attention, over me giving attention to my cat and stuff. So But eventually they both kind of started getting along, and they both, had even attention. The point is like when Stormy finally left, he died of kidney disease, which most cats, it's a very common thing for cats to die from. Interesting enough, because they don't drink enough water. And so I remember I would have ups and downs. I would have moments where it'd be late at night and my cat would be here on the bed, and I would just feel this wave of emotion come on me, and I would just curl up next to my cat and just let it loose and just cry it out and let it loose. That at least was a comfort to me, knowing that my cat was there, which is why I'm shuddering the day that my cat leaves me, because then I will have nothing. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't want to know what that looks like. So that's just kind of my thing on that. I have not had a death in the family that was close enough to me to really make a big effect. So I don't really know the like deaths that Francine knows. Yeah, so I don't know what else to say about that. I'm kind of at a loss for words. I don't want to feel that. I really don't want to feel that. I know it's coming someday. And I pray that God gives me the strength like he has you, Francine. But yeah, I think even more so in most recent times in the last year or two, or actually since Stormy died, I have been more intentional on appreciating every moment that I have with my baby, and just being present with him and appreciating him more and more. And interesting enough too, I mentioned the water thing. What I've started doing, so my cat started developing pre-kidney disease, almost stage 1. And so without the advice of any vet or anything like that, so what we started doing is we took him off of all processed wet food. We make his own food. He gets human grade food now. Water, I actually give him 40 mils of water by oral syringe twice a day. So he gets a total of 80. And since I've been doing that, his last major visit to the vet where he got all kinds of blood work done, his kidney disease is in remission.
Wow.
So
Amazing.
it's just go to say, if you're, if you like even apply holistic things with your animals, it is amazing how it's going to affect their health, because they too have been introduced to processed foods, and getting them off of that and getting them on real food that's nutritious and following by a more of a holistic plan, it's going to change your animal's life. So if anybody you out there, you have fur babies and you love them to death like I do, my cat gets treated like royalty. A lot of people won't let their cat on the counter. My cat eats on the counter. He knows when it's time to eat. He'll go in the kitchen and he'll ask to get up on the counter. He can't jump up there anymore. He's 13, so his jumping abilities have declined a little bit, which kind of saddens me, but he's still spoiled. It even goes all the way down to where sometimes when he's just laying on my bed and he wants to be fed, but he does not want to get up, sometimes Daddy will spoil him, and I will bring him a dish and I will put it right there where he's laying on the bed, and he will eat from the bed. So that's but anyhow,
that's your baby. And I can relate, because my cat Tiger, my rescue cat, he died after 15 years in my care, and we got him at a year and a half, and he also had kidney issues, and I didn't realize to give him water, and I wish I knew that earlier, but I didn't, unfortunately. And he just got very sick. He stopped eating and drinking, and I was away. I was traveling. I had other people looking after him for about a month. So I came back, and as soon as I got back from being away, within half an hour he died. So he actually died in my arms. It was one of those things that I cried and cried and cried. How I dealt with that loss at the time is it was like losing a child, and people deal with grief and loss in different ways. And even now, thinking about him and how he died, because when cats die, they he just stretched his body out and just let out this squeal, and just and it was just it was hard. It was really hard to go through that, because I was dealing with my guilt of being away and thinking, he probably missed me. And, part of my healing was I reached out to one of my clients in my mass media mastery program, beautiful Annie Burke, who's an animal communicator. And I reached out to her, and she said, look, animals don't, they don't resent anything. They're just so thankful that you cared for them. And, and it's amazing that my cat hung out until I got back. And he still lived till 16, and I never once took him to the vet in 15 years, never once took him anywhere else. He always stayed here and had a great life, so I think, well, that's fantastic. And then since his passing, I've now adopted another rescue cat who I'm giving a lot of love to, and he was in a cattery for a month, etc. So having another cat too also helped me deal with the grief, because after I cried it out and I wrote out a big sort of letter, and we had a ceremonial burial for Tiger, for my last cat, and wrote little notes and said a little prayer and did all. So I dealt with my loss in multiple ways of dealing with that, and whether it's a family member or whether it's an animal. I mean, animals are like family members for a lot of people. Everyone deals with it differently, as you say, Francine, right? And so with the truth about overcoming loss, what tips would you give to people who might be feeling lost right now, or who might still be grieving something that's happened a while ago that they clearly can't change because it's happened? What would you say to those people?
Yeah. Don't isolate. Please don't isolate. You do need to find somebody healthy to have that conversation with, and be careful. Be careful with that, because there's not everybody that's healthy enough to walk you through that. But if you can find someone healthy, I also would not take away from the Christian counselor that we saw. I remember his first thing he said to me when we walked in, which is what I told the Lord. I was like, Lord, I need to know that he's not whacked. Because I'm about to put my family in the care of him. And we're hurting. So I need to know that he knows you. And so one of the things he said to me is, he said, remember that when we were created in the garden, we were never supposed to face death. We weren't created to die, right? It wasn't until sin entered the world that death entered the world. And because that was the nature of sin, the wages of sin is death, right? So as sin entered the world, death entered with it. So our bodies, the way we were created, we're not created to face death. That's what grief is. It literally is our dealing with something we were never created to deal with. And when I heard that, oh, sweet. I have a sheepadoodle, and he's about as big as me. So anyway, so don't isolate. Find somebody, find a Christian counselor who can walk with you through that, and be honest with yourself. Now, do not, please listen to me on this. Don't get stuck on the what ifs and the if onlys. That is a record that will not stop skipping. You cannot dig out of that. You've got to find that I cannot get in that. What if he hadn't gone to the store? What if I hadn't asked for the creamer? You can't go there. There is no, unfortunately, we live in a finite world, and we have no understanding of the greater, right? And so those kind of questions will get you stuck, and you can't go there, right? It's just like you conquered them with your sweet Tiger. You could have gone there. right? And you were feeling the heaviness of not being there. But I thought it was beautiful immediately when I thought is, wow, he waited on you. He waited on you.
Yeah.
So, I think that's, and I know beyond any shadow of doubt that if my husband knew the lives that had been touched and the lives that have now turned to Christ, he would have chosen to go to heaven because that was his heart too. So,
Mm.
God brings peace. He does, and it's, I like what the Bible says is that it's unexplainable. I mean, it is unexplainable. So
Mhm.
peace
Yeah,
that
and
passes understanding.
my cat
Mhm.
Pablo has just come right next to me. He's sitting right. He still
Oh,
does. He doesn't like to be lifted up. He's had a lot of trauma, but this is my little. I'll just show you a photo of him. But he's right next to me. Like,
wow.
yeah, that's my little
Sweet.
Pablo, my little
Yeah,
rescue cat, and he's adorable with a whole lot of love. It's amazing how quickly they can turn around. But
yes.
yeah, it's challenging, as you say. The what if, the what could have been. And I know beautiful Tracy Corman, one of my closest friends here, is with us. The other half of the Fiddly Gigglers comedy duo. Now, Tracy lost her mother during COVID,
Mm,
and I know that she's been feeling at times, a lot of upset around the way things went, and
mhm.
that her mum died way too soon.
Yes.
And I know that she still deals with the grief to this day, a year on or so since her mother's passing. She said that gets you stuck. Indeed, it happened to me. Yeah, it can get you
Yeah.
stuck because you replay as a memory comes up, the tears flow, another memory comes up, like it really is quite a wave of emotions, isn't it? When
Mhm.
you're dealing with the
Yeah,
grief of
I actually got a part of a widows group, which I fought. I didn't want the title. Why would I go hang out with a bunch of people with the same title, right? But finally, someone actually used some keywords that got me there. But and I'm really glad now. They were amazing, and it was good to be able to not explain myself. Right? We all had the same hurt. But one of them said it's like standing at the ocean, and all of a sudden, from behind you, this wave comes, and you think you're standing sure-footed, but then that wave overtakes you, and you're flipping, and that's how grief is. I mean, it really is. And if you've ever stood at the ocean, I lived at the Gulf. There wasn't really big ocean waves like you guys deal with in California, but it does knock the sand from under you. All of a sudden, what seemed sure-footed becomes and that's the way grief does. And it does get better. I'm 7 years in. There's more beautiful memory than there is sad memory now, which is good. I mean, there was once a time every memory was we would burst into tears, but now we can actually enjoy the memory of things. Things come up on Facebook and history, and it's a good thing.
Mm.
So it does get better. A lot of times I don't mention, but I also lost my father. I also lost my mom. I lost both my husband's mom and dad. So my kids have faced a lot of loss, and here we're facing that my girls are getting to the age of getting married. Their dad was supposed to, do the wedding. They're like,
Mm.
"Mom, we don't have any grandparents. We don't have." I had 5 generations. I not only did I have a grandmother, I had a great grandmother for the majority of my life. We've had a lot of loss. So there is, yeah, when they do great things, like these are the little things you don't think about. So if you're a friend, I want you to hear this and think of the little things. So when my kids do something fantastic, who do I call? I can't call my husband. I can't call my dad and mom who would be proud of them. Who who do I call to
Mm.
tell them that I got to tell you how amazing your grandchildren are or your children are? The first time I ever had to write "Love Mom" on a Christmas gift instead of "Love Mom and Dad."
Mm.
Um, I'm the only one buying Christmas gifts now, right?
Yeah.
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 And I look forward to the day when we start getting married and start having grandchildren, right? Because then my tree will grow that way. But right now, I have a very barren tree, and those are tough things. And we have to be with people in those moments and allow them to somehow express that to us. If I'm not careful, I can feel very alone. And,
Mm.
I'm the matriarch. This is it, right? Now, I do
Yeah.
have an awesome brother-in-law and sister-in-law, and I have an aunt that is precious to us, but you know, as far as that immediate tree, it's not there. They're all gone.
And that's so interesting. The stats are that a third of people die by 65.
Mm-hmm.
Now, your husband was 62.
Mm-hmm.
So really, if you think about it, I mean, we never know when people are going to go. I mean, there's
Mm-hmm.
there's all those amazing performers that died as the 28 club, right? 28 or 27 club, was it? What was it?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
27 club. Yeah. So there was the likes of, Janis Joplin. There was, of course, Amy Winehouse, Kurt Cobain. So the death list is huge. Jim Morrison. It's amazing how many people died at age 27, and look at the impact in just 27 years that happened for these people. And, in 62 years, obviously, your husband left major impact in 62 years. And, tomorrow isn't guaranteed for any of us, right?
Mm-hmm. It's not
guaranteed for any of us. So how are we going to be about these curveballs that life throws sometimes? And, I was just with my parents at Bribey Island on the weekend, and my dad is 86 and my mum is 80, and dad's had 4 heart attacks, prostate cancer, diabetes. He cares for mum full time, who has dementia, and her dementia's getting worse, and now her feet have started to swell up as a side effect of the jab. Dad got shingles from the jab. He's dealt with that the last few years, and all sorts of heart issues. He's been in hospital several times, had to have shock treatment to get his heart restarted. And I, every time I see them, I think, is this going to be the last time I'm going to see them? Like, I actually get teary every time, because we never know, right? We never know when that time will come. And I mean, they're aging, and then I think to myself, well, they've been married 54 years. Is one going to go, and then is the other one going to go quickly after that? Like, you just don't know. But one thing we know, we don't want to put mum in a nursing home, that's for sure. So dad's, doing the best he can to care for mum, and I go up when I can and go and see them on the Sunshine Coast. I'm on the Gold Coast, which is about a 2.5 hour drive from where they are. However, we just don't know. So every time I see them, I just, I do the best I can to be present with them, to enjoy the moments that we have, because that's really all we have at the end of the day, isn't it? We just have those moments with people to remember. And I asked yesterday, I did a Media Queen TV show yesterday, interviewed Enza Lyons, and I said, how do you want to be remembered? And she said, well, I'm not sure how other people see me. It was an interesting question, right? How do you want to be remembered? How would you like people to remember you? And so if I ask you now, Francine, how would you like to be remembered? What would you say?
Oh, goodness, there's a lot there. That I loved them, that I really loved them, right? And I, a part of me wants to say that I took action and I did all these great things. No, I want to know that when people leave me, they know that they were loved. And a lot of that comes from our family actually has an honor code that we live by. And 2 of those pieces of that honor code is probably why we could let go of people well. And I would just advise everybody to do this. Number 1, we love out loud. We don't let things we don't let things go by. We love out loud. We can't assume that somebody knows. And number 2, we savor the moments. And when I say savor, like my husband, we stop for so many sunsets. I can't even tell you, of just, can we just be in awe for a moment? I remember one time we were coming out of a Waffle House, because we were traveling as evangelists, and we were coming out of a Waffle House, and I looked over, and there was like this grassy area where it kind of went down and probably had where it would do a runoff in there. And all my husband and I saw was trash. And it's one of the things we hate, is when people just throw trash and litter. And we just feel like that God gave us this earth and we need to be taking care of it. And so to see the litter on there was just awful. And so we were complaining about the litter. And my little girl, who at the time was probably, now she's 23, but she was like 7 or 8. She comes up and she starts pulling on my elbow, like, Mama, do you see it? And she's pointing at the ditch that we're complaining about all the trash in it. And she goes, do you see it? Do you see it? And her eyes are like wide. And I'm like, does she like the trash? What is wrong with my daughter? Right. And she's pointing at it. And I go, what, baby? And she said, do you see the butterflies? And when I spanned back, seriously, we didn't even see them because we were looking at the trash. There were hundreds of butterflies just over the top.
Wow.
She saw the butterflies, we saw the trash. And so many times we get focused. Our focus is wrong. Just like our phone can focus either on the background or the foreground, right? And we need to do the same thing. And when it comes to loved ones, and I'm going to tell you one story just to kind of really bring this home. We had just lost Wade. I'd taken our kids to one of our favorite places just to be there. And it was downtown. And there was a place where you had to go to the parking lot. So we had to walk down the sidewalk. So my little girl, who's 16 years old, just lost her daddy 2 weeks before, standing next to me. Behind us are two teenage girls, and they have their phones. And the phone goes like that. And she says, "Ugh, it's my dad again texting me." And my daughter just looks up at me. Silence. I just want that to hit home for a moment. She definitely felt that differently, right? And so be careful not to take things for granted. Don't take it for granted. Hug one more, squeeze. Say one more, "I love you," any chance you can get.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Ooh. I love that. And I'm constantly saying to my parents, "I love you. I love you." Like we have so much love. It's beautiful. And thank God I've done a lot of personal development work, because for many years I hated my parents. I hated my dad. And I got kicked out of home at 15. And, looking back, gosh, there was some dark times there in our family, where, all my parents were doing, they were just giving me lots of love. Actually, they were just, doing what they knew to do best. And I totally took it for granted, totally. And it was only really when I got kicked out of home where I got to see that the grass was not greener on the other side. And, came back home eventually and turned my life around. But it was, sometimes we need to go through these dark places, I think, to really appreciate what we have. And as you said, your daughter heard things differently. How many times do people take family for granted, take friends for granted? How often do we take people for granted? And it's often those that are closest to us that we tend to take for granted. So it's a really great reminder to really appreciate everyone in your life, even those that challenge you. In fact, probably more so those that challenge you, because
come on, preach that. That's good.
there's there for us when we get triggered by things, right? And to notice when we get triggered, and what is coming up for us? Why are we getting triggered by certain things? The thoughts do come up, as I say, is this going to be the last time I see my parents? And then I do my best to sort of let those thoughts go and be present in the moment, Aldwyn, have conversations with myself, be present, be present. Be here with your folks, and they're getting a bit of a hunchback, and every now and then I'll sort of put my hand on their back and then between their shoulders, and I'll say, "Now just walk tall, you can breathe better." And, and Dad sometimes says, "Oh, you can't teach an old dog new tricks." He says things like that. So Dad, you're never too old, and so bringing some.
Yes, I love that. That's so precious. My mother had cancer, and so we knew as time was moving on that that time was short. And one of the things that I did, and I would advise people to do this too. It's not that I accepted it, but at the same time, I realized it's okay to know that it's short, that your time is short. And so I remember she was taking a nap, and I crawled up onto the bed. And one of the things I used to do as a little girl is I would play with her fingernails and play with her hands. And I thought, I need to take this moment in, all 5 senses. And she was asleep, and I just took her hand, and I played with her nails, and like I was a little girl, and I was quite older. And I just took the moment in, and I marked it in my life. And now when I miss her, like in those moments, and I'm like, this is when I would have called my mom, I can go back to that moment on purpose. And so if you have the privilege of knowing that someone's about to go home to be with the Lord, don't be afraid of those moments. Please don't run from them. Lean in. and mark those moments, because those moments are precious. I didn't get that with Wade. He left to the store. He was supposed to come home. It was traumatic and hard. And all of a sudden, God has since reminded me of moments that were there prior that I just didn't recognize that they were there. So God brings those, but we want to run from pain, and it's really important not to do that. It's a part of the process. So.
And it's interesting. Just this morning, I was going for a walk on the beach with a friend, and he was talking about euthanasia. He was saying now in Queensland, it's legal. You can kill yourself if you want to. If you get to the end of your life and you're shitting your pants every day and you don't want to live that way, you can just end it. And my thought was, well, you've been given this amazing gift of life. Life is so short anyway. Why would you want to end your life, right? I mean, we've just had 4 times the suicide rates through COVID, right? We have about 1 million people a year worldwide take their own lives, and we've just had 4 times that through COVID. And there's people at the end of their life that want to kill themselves. And I find that really hard to accept. And at the same time, I get that people's life, it's their choice. It's their choice what they want to do with their life at the same time. It's kind of like the whole abortion debate, right? I mean, it's an interesting.
Oh, Lord, don't get me started on that one.
Yeah, I mean, we could do whole different shows on all of these topics. But what are your thoughts on euthanasia, Francine?
Yeah. Well, I believe God is the ultimate. He ordains life and death. And I just think that I would allow him to choose my moment. And I don't think that there's any time in life that you're not important and not valuable in that moment. I don't care what's going on, because I've seen too many people go through terrible things and, experience. And there's a God moment in those moments. So there's no way I would choose that. I don't know what the last things, or let's say that I even am in a state where I can't speak back. Maybe my children need to say something. So I can't be God. I've got to allow God to be God. And sometimes it's yielding, which is the hardest thing for us. I understand that, there's that belief that we should be in charge. I'm not in charge. I yield to him. When I gave my life to Christ, I bowed my knee and I'm yielded to him. And I'll be honest, even when things don't go my way, or I think this is not the right way, he's good. He's even good in that. I mean, you just heard the major story of asking my will. And even in that, he brought all things around. He comforted me. He walked with me. I can tell you story after story after story of him gently holding my heart and walking me through those. And I could almost hear his voice, baby, I know I've asked you to do something hard and I'm walking you through it. So.
Yeah, beautiful. Love that. Now let's just flip the topic a little bit to your entrepreneurial business, your coaching business. Now it's called Kingdom Entrepreneurs. Is that correct?
Well, consumed coaching, but yeah, we work with Kingdom Entrepreneurs.
Okay, and you're also the author of 21 Kingdom Success Principles, a devotional for kingdom entrepreneurs, which provides daily guidance and inspiration for faith-driven business leaders. So, what are some of these success principles? I'm curious, and what do you find that stops a lot of entrepreneurs from moving forward and having successful businesses? Because we do know, 80% of businesses fail in 5 years, and then 80% of those fail in the next 5 years. So what are some tips, success principles to help people?
Before you answer that, Francine, I just because I know it's getting late for you, so I just want to make sure if time's kind of getting short for you, please let us know, because we are going to continue going at this point.
Yes.
We might wrap up in just a little bit, but I just want to let you know that if time's getting a little short for you, to please give us a cue. But anyhow, go ahead and answer Aldwyn's question.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's so good. And I've so enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much for just allowing me to just share my heart, and just the transparency on the show has been a beautiful, beautiful thing. So anyway, what an honor. What an honor. 21 Kingdom Success Principles. I believe that there are success principles in the world. I'm trying to remember the guy who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul. I mean, he said that, yes, he said success leaves clues, right?
Yes.
And so there are success principles. Well, I also know that there are kingdom success principles. And when you're in the kingdom, which is it's a whole separate, when you say kingdom, it is truly a kingdom here on earth. Jesus called it to be. And these principles come with promise, right? So it's not just the principle of the world, but it's a principle of the kingdom. And so I really sat down with the Lord and I said, what are 21 of your principles, God, that come with your promise? Because there's so many things in the Bible that says if and then, right? If and then. So a couple of them would be not taking the counsel of the ungodly and not sitting in the seat of the scornful, right? To not, and we know this. I mean, even the business world says surround yourself with winners, right? People who are successful so that you'll rise up. So they get a gist of what the Bible's already taught us is to be very careful how we surround ourselves. And then the Bible, the promise to that, this is in Psalm 1, the promise is you're like, when you don't do that, then you're like a tree that's planted next to the water where your leaf will not wither and everything you do prospers. What? I want to tap into that, right? And so we do have to be careful with who we allow to sow into us. Now, sometimes we have people in our lives that are just in our lives. We can't avoid that, but you can decide how you intake. There is a difference in someone being around you and who you allow to deposit in your life, right? So that's one promise. They that wait upon the Lord and renew their strength, learning to wait. Now, careful how we say wait, because I meet a lot of people who think waiting is not taking action. No, we bloom where we are. We do what we know to do until we know what the next thing is. So waiting, the word wait in the Bible is like a three-legged race. We're tied to God and we're yielded to him and we're walking at his pace. That's the wait in that. It doesn't mean sit there and hope that a check falls out of heaven. It doesn't work like that. I'm a business coach. I will tell you, take some action, right? We don't sit on our laurels and think everything's going to happen. Ken, amen.
Amen.
You heard me.
Hell yeah.
Right? So anyway, so there's just these scriptures, give and it shall be given to you, right? Sowing and reaping. There's so many, especially in the entrepreneur world and especially in that world where we're content driven, right? I sell IP, intellectual property. And so people who sell IP can get really stingy with their IP and put everything behind these paywalls. I'm a generous person. Like I give because I know people aren't buying my IP. Goodness gracious, you can Google my IP. Come on, right? There's not a new thing under the sun. But God tells me that I will reap what I sow. What does that mean? That means if I'm generous, the people who hear me, they're either going to resonate with my voice or they're going to go, no way would I have a coach like that, right? And that's okay. I want to know who my people are. And they're not hiring a coach for my intellectual property. They're hiring me as a coach so that I can customize it. I can speed up the process. And for some accountability, right? How many of us gone to a conference, got tons and tons of information, and it's sitting in a spiral notebook up under our bed, right?
Shelf.
Yeah, lots of shelf knowledge, right? Nobody's getting it done because they don't have a coach to kind of go, come on, what's your dream? What's our next step? Let's get it done, right? We know that in sports. If we see our kid excel in anything, we're getting them a coach. Well, why not in life and business? Right?
Yes.
One of those principles that I would love for you to talk about, because I just really think it was so powerful. And I remember being in your 21-day thing, and I remember hearing it, and I was just like, oh my gosh, that's so encouraging. So the story you use behind like the scarcity mindset that we as entrepreneurs tend to love to take, especially so when we see somebody else succeed, it's often very tempting to go, oh, when is it going to happen for me? And oh my gosh, my audience is going away. These people are taking, this. Go into that principle, talk about the tree, the apple, the seeds, and all of that, because it's
so cool.
so powerful.
Yes. So the world teaches you that that everything is made into this pie, right? And if somebody takes a slice of the pie, there's less pie left, right? And a lot of entrepreneurs live like that. So here they think that they have this slice of the pie, and all of a sudden they see 4 other books doing the same thing or saying the same thing, and they think, "Oh, I got to go find something new." No. We don't live in a pie shop. God didn't put us in to be bakers. He put us in a garden. Now think about it. God is so abundant that here we've got trees and fruit. Trees, you consume in a garden. What gets left over afterwards? Seeds. Seeds that get planted and become trees with an abundance of fruit. That's the way God designed things, in abundance, not scarcity. So when I see tons of people doing exactly that, just means, oh, this works. There's a lot of people doing it, but I'm the only one with my thumbprint, my delivery, my voice. That's why I tell people all of my coaches need to be on screen with their voice, because that's what makes you different, is you. Nobody can be Ken. No one. Tell me how to Aldwyn. Yes.
Aldwyn, yes.
Okay. I didn't want to say it wrong. I thought I had it right. No one can be Aldwyn. No one can be Francine. That's what makes us different. We're not a commodity, right? We're not a commodity. We are unique, and we bring it to the world differently. And so God is an abundant God. And when things are consumed, it creates seeds, not lack. It creates seeds, which creates so much more fruit. It's the way it works.
So true. It's like, it's like we're a drop in the ocean, and the ocean has so many drops, right? And one word I cannot stand that people say in business is your competition. What are your competition doing, right? I just cannot. It's something irks me about that. And even though, in table tennis, we competed in competitions all the time, right? It's actually called competitions.
Yes.
I see it as abundance, and it's one slice of the pie. As you say, there is so much opportunity out there. We don't all need 7 billion clients or 8 billion clients. There really is so much opportunity. And the way I look at it is, if there's other people that are doing similar things to you, it raises more awareness about what you do, which helps get it out even further. So how can we collaborate rather than compete? And how can we be the best versions of ourselves in business? So back to the question too about, and I love all those principles. Thank you for sharing that. About what are people doing to sabotage themselves? Do you think, in business, apart from having this sort of scarcity mindset? What else are they doing to sabotage themselves, and how can they overcome that and be successful in business? What are some of the key principles?
Yeah, perfection, procrastination, and not taking action. Realizing that entrepreneurship is risky. As a kingdom entrepreneur, it's not quite as risky because you're God called and God blessed. So you just walk it out. Now, also believing that failure is the opposite of success. Failure is a part of the process. Do we not remember trying to learn how to walk? We fell down. It was a part of learning to walk. And as we became adults, we thought we had to do this perfectly and make all straight A's. The school kind of taught us you're supposed to make A's and do everything perfect. That's not how it works. If you're going to learn to do something, you're going to fall down. When I went to Colorado for the first time to learn to ski, the first thing the ski instructor taught us was how to fall down and how to get up. It was not a choice of whether or not we were going to fall down. We were going to fall down. It's a part of the process. And so as entrepreneurs, we have to realize we're going to fail. And so right now I released a new lead magnet. Guess what I'm doing? I'm watching it. And if no one's downloading it, I'm tweaking a little bit. And I see a lot of brand new entrepreneurs that they put something out there and it's not working, and they chunk the whole thing and start over. I'm like, what? No, this is the learning process. Now we're going to tweak the words. We're going to put it out differently. Yeah, we need to learn to take action.
Yeah, I love that. And you being generous, I think, is really important. And, you reap what you sow. And I heard a great quote years ago, give more than you receive to always receive more than you give. Like, it comes back tenfold, right? Whereas when you're on the take, and then it comes back tenfold the other way. I do believe in this, the law of reciprocity, or
So good.
The yin yang of life. I do believe that there's, what you put out will come back.
Yes,
Maybe not from the same people that you put out to, but it comes back energetically.
absolutely.
Um,
Mhm.
Now, being generous in business, I think, is so important, and you have free resources on your website. So, could you share a bit about that? And I'll share just share what your website is. We'll share that up on the
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah, there's affirmation cards in there. I do believe that your confidence has a lot to do with your success, and so there's uh, affirmation cards in there. There is how to read the Bible, because a lot of us don't know how to really tap into the Bible. There are right now my new lead magnet, which is up there, is what are the 5 things that I've seen new coaches doing that are sabotaging their business. That they don't even realize. And it's a webinar that's pre-recorded so that you can watch it. And I talk about not only what's going on, but how you can prevent that. And so those are just some of the things that are on there. I'm trying to remember, the 21 Kingdom Principles is on there, but and you can find it on Amazon. But yeah, I just think it's super important. And if you follow me long enough, you're going to see me. I do free Bible studies periodically, Kingdom Bible studies. When I first released the book, that's what Ken had rejoined me on this last couple of months, as I had done a 10-week Bible study through the principles. It's just one of the things that I feel like is why we've been successful, is because we're willing to give that value. We were in a challenge last week, Ken and I, with Myron Golden, and I love what he said. He said, if I give you $1 and you give me $1 back, we've got nothing, right? We really haven't. And you're not going to continue to give $1 for $1, are you? No. But if I said, I have $10, if you'll give me $1, will you give it back? If you are given 10 times the value as an entrepreneur, you will never have to sell anything. Would I have to sell you on giving me $1 for $10? No, I wouldn't even have to sell you on that. So the issue is, I think, we gate things so hard that we don't realize that we need to give 10 times the value every time. Now, also have the problem with people not pricing themselves right. I will talk to you about that too as well.
Yes, please.
Is because there's a lot of people that do not price themselves right. But and that's another whole teaching. But make sure that you're not protective, that you really truly I sign all of my emails this way. I'm here for your success because I take it personally. And every client that I'm a part of, their goals are as personal to me as they are to them. And as long as they'll give me everything they've got, we will get there, right? But they got to do the work too. But it is personal to me. And I want to be their biggest cheerleader as they cross the line. And I want to be the person that's willing to get right next to them and go, you can do this. You can do this. I want to get them past the place they always quit, because it's on the other side of quitting is success.
Yes, love that. And we must pay to pay attention, I believe. If you're not paying for
Yes.
anything, then generally you're not going to lean in. So it is important that we value our services and also
Yeah.
price that effectively, and look after people. I think that's so important. I know a lot of people have been scammed out there. There's a lot of all sorts of dodgy characters
for sure.
out there nowadays. So, you do need to do your due diligence. And coming back to what you say, no one else has your fingerprint. People follow people. And how can you be the best version of you, and how can you help serve as much as possible? Selling is service, being of service. So what are the different ways that people can work with you then? Do you do group coaching, one-on-one? How do you work?
Yeah, we have a group coaching called The Design Life. We really truly believe that God has a beautiful I think you can live in your joy doing the things that God called you to do, and feel that. So that's Design Life. And we have a 4-part proprietary system that we take people through, which is the identity of your business, which includes your brand DNA, into your impact, how you impact the world, how God called you to impact the world, into increase, which takes you into thought leadership, where it's not just that you're an expert at what you do, but you're actually an authority in what you do. And then ultimately, how do you earn the income that you've been called to earn? And sales, pipelines, the whole thing. Sales is my thing. I love sales. I'm one of those very strange people, but I think it, just like you said, it's a service. It's an invitation. So I've seen it done wrong too much. I think that's why I love it, because I love to teach it right. So we have that, which is our group coaching. We have 6 coaches. There's 6 coaching calls to everybody who's in there, but it is a large group community. We have one-to-one. We do believe in one-to-one because one of our 3 pillars is we keep it personal. It is personal to us, excellent, and then faith-based. Those are our 3 pillars. So we have one-to-one. We have a certification process for people who are kingdom-based and want to become a coach, because I do believe in it. And I've been through lots and lots of certifications, and I was feeling like there was something missing, and God just said, well, then here, I'm going to help you start your own if you'll sit down. And he just literally downloaded it into me. So it's called the Kingdom Coach Certification, where we certify coaches. So in 90 days, they can be up and running powerfully. And then I also have an event where we do a retreat with a small retreat for a group of women. And then we're starting our first big event, which will be in March of next year, where we're going to do a large, more conference-y event. So.
Wow, how exciting. That sounds amazing. So go along there, consumedcoaching.com for those on the audio, consumed, CONSUMED, coaching, COACHING.com. Any final words as we start to wrap up here on the truth about overcoming loss, or any other words of wisdom before we share your quote?
Yeah. I think I'd just go back to, don't take for granted anything, right? Be as a coach, we have to learn to listen, but I think everybody has to be mindful of the moments, right? Really hear the people that you love. We have a tendency to listen to everybody else, but not listen to those that are closest to us, because we have these filters that we're listening through. And sometimes please take the filter down and really hear the people that you love, even more than the noise outside that grabs you. So put down your phone, have dinner with somebody that you love.
Yes.
Let me speak into that too. The cool thing about that, put down your phone and enjoy, who's in front of you. So for a while now, what my mom and I, when we used to go out to dinner, what we used to do is, I would have my phone and we pull up Yahtzee on the phone and we pass it back and forth. We play Yahtzee.
Yeah.
We eventually, though, decided, because I got to thinking, I'm like, I remember back in the days where people would go out to dinner. You'd have people, at coffee houses, and they're playing games, and they're playing physical games.
Yes.
And different things like that. And I got to thinking, I'm like, who does that anymore? And so that's exactly, and I love that. And you shared that with me the last time I shared that, but that's exactly what my mom and I have started doing. When we go out to dinner now,
yes,
we bring cards, we bring Yahtzee, and it just depends on what we want to play. Yes. And my phone goes in the bag. I don't really check it. And we are playing games together and just enjoying the moment. And it's so much more fulfilling. It's so much better. You're present in the moment. You're having fun. I mean, we play gin, we'll play canasta, we'll play Yahtzee, and it's great. So
Yahtzee is the funnest. I love it. And we love to play card games. If you haven't played Playing 9, you need to find Playing 9. So much fun, and super fun card game. So we love playing cards. So we have game night.
Love it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, really connecting with loved ones and getting off your screens for a bit. I think it's so important to have that connection. I think that's why a lot of people now are going back to the in-person events. What I'm finding, a lot of in-person events are filling up very quickly because, we're sick of being on the computer. Although this is sort of the way of the world now, there's so much done online. So how can you,
how else could we have gotten together, right? Texas, California, Australia. Well, this is a gift. This is a gift. We just have to make sure we keep it at a gift and not,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Mm.
yes, and make sure we get up and stand. And I actually had a little dance before to one of my favorite songs, which is Maria by Santana. Maria by Maria.
Yeah.
Da, da, da. It's one of my favorite songs. So I was having a little dance around the kitchen before,
Yeah.
on my own. No one was watching, and I wasn't naked, although that could
Yeah.
have been more fun doing it naked. But, I thought, bring some joy into your life. Bring some,
Yes.
in those moments
Amen.
when you go get yourself a cup of coffee. I love coffee as well, Francine.
Woo! Love it.
Your
I
thing
love it.
seeds that
Happy
you love
moment.
your coffee, and you're a self-proclaimed recovering workaholic
Yes.
with infectious positivity. I can certainly relate to that as well.
Yes.
So have fun with what you're doing, and maybe get a standing desk for yourself. Because I heard the other day, if you sit for 3 hours a day, it shortens your life by 2 years. Isn't that extraordinary?
Wow. Yes.
2
Yes.
years.
My desk lifts. It's not my daughter's is electronic, so hers will lift so she can stand, but mine is hinged, so it will lift into a standing desk too. So, and I have a elliptical up under me. Ken, you'll be so
Oh,
it's actually up under my
Ooh,
desk, so you can't tell, but I've been pedaling the whole time. So,
very
that's kind of
cool.
cool. I
mhm,
like that. Wow, that's
mhm,
awesome. Yeah,
mhm.
so
That's
my desk is so I didn't want to spend the money on a stand-up desk. So I got creative.
Mhm.
So over here in the corner, I've got a little plastic crate, file crate that is just big enough to lift my computer enough at a comfortable level where I can now stand at my desk. It takes me literally 2 minutes to set up. It cost me like $8. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's perfect. And in addition, what I also have for better posture, especially when I'm typing and stuff, what I have is my laptop is on a stand.
Mine too.
So it's lifted up so that I'm encouraged to, have better posture at my desk. And then
Mhm.
behind me is I have this pillow. That pillow is not necessarily there for back support. That pillow is there to remind me to sit up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I love
Yes,
that.
very cool. Well, we all get 5 stars for our ergonomic desk situation. So I have a little cushion
Woo!
behind me. I have a stand for my laptop, and I get up in the other room sometimes, and I
Yes.
stand up and move my laptop around and things like that. So I think it's great to be mindful of these things, to have this
Yes.
knowledge. People watching might be thinking, okay, or listening, okay, well, maybe, how can we bring more of this into our lives? So
Mhm.
wrapping up here, Francine, what is a favorite quote or motto that you live by?
Mm, I don't want to be a milepost in someone's life. I want to be a fork in someone's life where they have to make a decision one way or the other. And
Mm.
that's a Jim Elliott quote. I didn't quite quote it exactly, but that's pretty much don't be a milepost, Francine, where they can just pass and mark it. I want to be a fork in the road where someone has to make a decision. So,
Love that. Love that. And Ken, how can people connect with you, my friend?
Well, okay. So there's the one way that I'm going to say is the best way to connect with me is book an appointment on my calendar. Um, Before I get into all that, though, I've got something very special for everyone today. So, I have just recently launched a very special free boot camp. Aldwyn, that's in the chat. There you go. It's a very special free boot camp. This is in its beta stage. It's in a testing stage, which is why it is 100% free. Now, check this out, guys. You get 3 one-on-one sessions with me for free. And on each of those sessions, session 1, we are going to be talking about mindset. We're going to be talking about how to approach your weight loss journey mindset. No more
mm,
diets. We're going to be talking about embracing the journey. We're going to be talking about sustainable for the long haul. The second session, I am going to be diving deep with you and explaining how the industry is lying to you, how the food industry is lying to you. There's 3 points in that section that we're going to be diving into. The last and third final session, we are going to be talking about marketing deceptions, how the big food industry is deceiving you with their marketing, how to see past that, how to empower yourself to make better choices through that. This mini boot camp is a very powerful, packed program that I've launched. It is 100% free. It's not going to be free for a long time. This
no.
is just the test phase. So if you are if you are watching, even if you've got the replay, what I want you to do, if you're interested in checking out my boot camp, you have nothing to lose. It's 100% free. I am not going to high pressure sell you at the end. I'm not going to do that. The whole point of this is to help empower you and give you a chance to check it out. So it's www.masteryweightloss.com/free mini bootcamp. That's all you need to remember. It's right there on the screen as well. It'll be in the comments in the comment section as well. www.masteryweightoss.com/free mini bootcamp. FREEMINI-BOOTCAMP. I am spelling that out for those of you who are listening by audio.
And
hopefully you got all that.
Just quickly, it's white because you said W-I, so it's actually W-E-I, okay? W-E-I-G-H-T in the middle there, weight, okay?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah. Okay, so I did fumble. I was going to say I almost fumbled through there, and I actually did. So there you go.
That was amazing. Well done, Ken. That's great.
www.masteryweightloss.com/free mini bootcamp. 100% free. You have nothing to lose but wait. And give me that chance. You're going to love this series. You will. This is my guarantee. I promise you, I guarantee you, you will walk away with some aha moments, and they will be big. So there is that. And then Aldwyn, my other link, this is my link tree. So it's www.linktr.ee/fatfighterken, FATFIGHTERKEN. Geez, I am like almost like so in there you can also
a lot of intelligent people are dyslexic as well, by the way. So for others that are struggling to this for our people on audio. Anyway, back to you, Ken.
In there you can find a link to book an appointment with me on my calendar. Go for it. Book an appointment. I would love the opportunity to get to know you. Again, I'm not going to high pressure sell you. I just want to see how I can help you. And that is it. And my quote for today, I'm going to list two of them, guys. So one of them is straight out of the Bible, and it is, where to go? There it is. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary, and they will walk and not be faint. Remember who the Lord is. I have not commanded you, or have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And lastly, in light of today's conversation and everything we kind of talked about as far as enduring through those kind of times, I am going to quote from my hero, Donald J. Trump. And he said, treat the word impossible as nothing more than motivation.
Wow.
So that's cool. Beautiful. Thank you, Ken. And shout out to Donald Trump. Whatever your thoughts are about Donald Trump, his time is obviously not done yet with that assassination attempt the other day in Pennsylvania. You know, I was looking at the footage of that, and the way that the sniper got his ear. Now, his head was turned to the side in that moment. Like if his head was actually, like literally, it was a matter of millimeters, centimeters, he would have been dead. So clearly his time is not up yet. And let's just see how things unfold from here. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. Very interesting. Time's not up yet for Mr. Donald Trump. And whatever you think of him, I tell you what, I admire the way that he just speaks his mind no matter how much crap they've given him. It kind of reminds me of Jesus on the cross, actually, how Jesus was crucified. They were throwing things at him, and he said, forgive them. They know not what they do. Forgive them, right?
Right. Strength.
No, that's I see that strength in Donald Trump, because there's not many people that would call out the fake news and what's been going on with some of the stuff that's happening out there. So let's see how things unfold. Thank you for that, Ken. That sounds amazing. That boot camp, check it out. And for those who want to connect with me, just hop along to a linktree/Aldwyn, linktr.ee/Aldwyn. Up there on screen, you'll see my YouTube channel, Aldwyn Altuney Media Queen TV. We are streaming back on YouTube again. We did get censored a few weeks ago with one of our shows. Interestingly, we always say if there's nothing to hide, why the censorship? Thankfully, we have channels like Rumble and BitChute, where also you will find our shows on there, and many other platforms. I also have a whole lot of free resources on my website. I help people be seen, heard, and known amongst the noise through mass media exposure. So book a call with me on my calendar there if you'd like to know more about that. And also, we have every month the Global Good News Challenge. We have the July one happening right now, where you can share gratitude and good news on social media. It's free marketing for you. Check out all the details at the top of the Global Good News Challenge Facebook page, which you'll also find in my links. So reach out and connect, subscribe, follow, do all that stuff. If you like what you've seen here today, and thank you so much for all those who've joined us live here. I can see on Instagram we've got Stephen J. Lewis is with us. We've got the Real Utku there, Friendly Aussie Buds. Hello, Sandy Speaks. Tina Pegler. Tina Pegler, I think is how you say that. Guarded Body, welcome, welcome. Great to see you there. Those on Facebook, on YouTube, I can see we've had people join us there. Hello there to all those who've joined us. I can see we've had Tracy, we've had Holly, we've had on YouTube, we've had Brendan Michael. Hello, hello. Hello to those on Twitch. Let us know, what have you thought about this show? Let us know in the comments, what have you got out of this today around loss and all the other topics we've talked about. And my quote for the day is, what we have once enjoyed, we can never lose. All that we love deeply becomes a part of us. And that's a Helen Keller quote. What we have once enjoyed, we can never lose. All that we love deeply becomes a part of us. Helen Keller. And share the love too if you've enjoyed this today. Thank you so much, Francine. It's been amazing having you.
Thank you.
Extraordinary. And thank you. And keep up the amazing work that you do. Any final words from either of you before we call it a day on this one?
I just want to mention, so the first two that I read earlier before the Donald J. Trump quote. So the first verse was from Isaiah 40:31. Forgot to mention it. The second verse that I read was Joshua 1:9, for those of you who wanted to know. So that's
great.
Yeah. And the only thing I would say is, you were made to do great things. Go take action. Go do it. You'll learn. I promise, if you just go start, you'll learn it. Don't wait till you think you got it. So
I love that, Francine. And thank you so much for staying back with us so late for you. What time is it in Texas? It's just gone 2:22. Look at that. The master number. The angels are here. 2:22 p.m. here in Australia. What time is it?
11:30. We're getting close to 11:30, 11:22. So
to midnight. Okay, well, bedtime for you guys. Thank you so much once again. Thank you, everyone who's joined us live. Share the love. Let us know what you thought in the comments. And we'll see you again next time on Total Truth Show for more amazingness and more phenomenal guests here on the show. Thank you for supporting us. We'll be back with you soon. Thank you, Francine. Thank you, Ken. See you next time. Bye.